I would also say imagination is so important these days because we have to imagine a world that isn't here yet. We have to imagine jobs that don't exist. We have to imagine how AI might be used going forward, how AI and other digital technologies will change our world completely, right? So we have to imagine that and already think in terms of how can we prepare for that, for the unknown.
Welcome to Small College America, a podcast dedicated to exploring the role and value of small colleges in the higher education landscape in the United States. I'm Kent Barnds, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dean Hoke. Dean?
Thank you, Kent. Today on Small College America, we're joined by Dr. Gregor Thuswaldner, who serves as Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of Faculty at Roche University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He is also the editor of the Chief Academic Officer's Handbook, a Provost Guide to Visionary Leadership, just released by Johns Hopkins University Press. Gregor previously was Provost and Executive VP at Whitworth University in Spokane and was acting Provost and Dean at North Park University in Chicago. He also was a department chair and professor at Gordon College. He currently serves on the boards of the AAUA, the American Association of University Administrators, which is where we met, and recently the president of the Association of Chief Academic Officers. He holds membership or fellowships in the prestigious organizations including the European Academy of Sciences and Arts and the Royal Historical Society. He also serves as a podcast host of EdUp Provost. And Gregor, welcome to the show. And I'm just glad you've been able to get on the program. You're a busy man. You have a lot of things going on.
Well, so do you. Well, first of all, thank you, Kent, and thank you, Dean, for inviting me to your podcast. This is great to be with you.
Well, Kent, why don't you lead off?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So thanks again for being with us. Gregor, to begin, could you tell our audience a little bit about La Roche University and what attracted you to the role in which you serve now as Vice President of Academic Affairs and Dean of the Faculty?
Sure. La Roche University is a Catholic institution here in the North Hills of Pittsburgh, and it's a beautiful location. But that's not the main reason why I decided to come here. I was really intrigued when I saw the job announcement by the president because I had been following Christina Clark for quite some time on LinkedIn, and I was very impressed with the things that I saw, the things that she was able to do within just 1 year of her presidency, her first year of her presidency at La Roche. And so I was really intrigued. And then I looked at the description, the job description, and I saw that they're not looking for a bench warmer. They're looking for somebody who wants to really change things. And that attracted me. And not just, change things for the sake of changing things, but really there was a vision. There was a clear vision for academic excellence and expansion in a realistic way, right? Because we see so much contraction, but here's an institution that knows its niche and has several initiatives going that are very interesting and refreshing when we look at higher education, where we see, where we cut programs here and there, and La Roche wants to do things differently. And so that attracted me. And then I came here, I met the people, and they're just fantastic. Fantastic colleagues. Don't get me wrong, I've had the opportunity to work with many great people at different places, including Whitworth, including North Park. But La Roche is a very special place. My first Catholic institution, and I immensely enjoy working with the nuns who are here. So that's a great experience. And that is an amazing group of women who have founded the college and sustained the college. And they too have a vision for justice, for peace, for belonging. And again, in this day and age, this is so important. And so again, I couldn't be happier.
Very good. Well, let's continue this conversation, particularly this is your first year. You've been there for a few months, but as a small school and as basically as the chief academic officer, tell me, what are your top academic priorities? Are there particular initiatives, whether it's in programs or partnerships or student access? What are you particularly excited to advance during this first year?
Yes, so there's several. Um, just this morning I was on a Zoom call with the president and also my new colleague, the latest member of our cabinet, and that's David Kang, who is the VP for Global Education. And just the fact that we have a VP for Global Education says a lot about the institution and its new direction, or going back to its roots, I should say, because global education has always been at the heart of the institution. And I'm a product of international education myself. If I had not spent a year in the States as a graduate student, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. So that changed my life. And so we have new initiatives going with other universities across the globe, and that's extremely exciting. And as VP for Academic Affairs, I play a certain role in these partnerships, and that's just great to get to know colleagues in other places and to form these partnerships that will be beneficial for our institution, but also for our the institutions that we're working with. Um, we are also, I guess, pretty countercultural in a sense because we are working on an initiative to revitalize, to reimagine the humanities. And that too is kind of, different because in this day and age, many institutions, including R1 institutions, are slashing their humanities programs. And for us as a liberal arts institution, a comprehensive liberal arts institution, we want to make sure that we retain and also strengthen the humanities, but we have to re-envision them. And that's really a fun conversation that is going on right now. We started with a faculty panel during the inauguration week of Christina Clark in mid-September. And so the faculty panel, they were charged with responding to some interesting questions regarding the way that they see the future of the humanities in the States, but also here at La Roche. And this, the room was packed. So there were, staff members, it was standing room only, faculty, students really engaged in this conversation. And this conversation is ongoing. And I don't want to dictate where this is going to end. I see this as a dialectic experience, a way to really focus on shared governance, to have a dialogue with the faculty to shape how we're going to re-envision the humanities here at La Roche. So that's one of our initiatives. And then finally, another one that's really near and dear to my heart is I was charged by Christina Clark to envision a Center for Teaching and Learning. And now we have a task force that are formed with faculty and staff, and we're going to do just that. We're going to look at existing models. We're going to read Mary Wright's book, Centers for Teaching and Learning, The New Landscape in Higher Education, which was published 2 years ago, I think, with Johns Hopkins. And we're going to think about our context. What is this going to mean? How can we elevate excellent teaching? How can we make sure that, La Roche is really known for teaching excellence, which is already happening. But the question is, how can we make sure that this is not right now, but this is really a staple of the institution going forward? How can we make sure that, new faculty that we're onboarding, that we develop them to become or to develop as excellent teachers? And so that is really exciting for me.
Well, I'll tell you, I love the enthusiasm and optimism with which you're approaching those two, a number of really important conversations, which is not always the case. with a chief
Mm.
academic officer to be as excited about reimagining the humanities and the liberal arts and then also thinking about the future of teaching and learning in an age when AI is so prevalent. So I want to relate that to your work at small colleges and also your book, the Academic Officer's Handbook. I'd love for some insights about how your book and the insights that you have, how they should resonate with provosts at smaller tuition dependent institutions. You've got this optimistic view, and we'd love to kind of uncover that for our listeners.
Sure. So yeah, it's not hopefully not blind optimism. So I think it is grounded in reality because, um, I'm a bit skeptical when it comes to optimism as a philosophy, right? But that's a different story. We could talk about that in another podcast about Leibniz and uh, uh, Voltaire's critique of optimism in the Enlightenment, which is a really important one. But anyway, so the way I see things is really shaped by my experiences, but also by the people that are here and the potential that I see here at La Roche. But going back to um, the book, I think offers a lot of advice for provosts like me, provosts at small colleges, because, well, I come from this world, right? I've taught at small colleges, I've been an administrator at small colleges, and so this is my world. But I envisioned a book, a handbook for provosts that would fit the bill wherever a provost would find themselves in. That is, I wanted to create a book that would resonate with colleagues at R1s, at community colleges, at small privates, at regional publics. And so that's why I invited a broad range of colleagues from these institutions. But the focus is really on problems, on issues that um, we all share. And so somebody from a community college will pick this book up and will be able to read this cover to cover and really find important things for them. And that's true for, somebody like me, right, in a small college setting, because we talk about all kinds of issues from how we can serve faculty, how we can serve students, what it means to serve at the pleasure of a president, right? We talk about academic freedom and freedom of speech, which, of course, especially in this day and age, is an extremely important topic, right? And so you'll find chapters, the content of the book is really geared towards all provosts across the board. And that's why we didn't make a distinction in terms of, what type of institution are we looking for here. Um, I was when I envisioned the book, I wanted a book that I had wanted to read when I became a provost, right? The book I never had. And so that's what I wanted to create. And I hope, but I also think that we were able to achieve that because of my fantastic colleagues that I was able to recruit for this book project.
Well, let's continue down that a little bit. One of the things that fascinated me about this is not only you served as chief editor in organizing this, but you also had to put together a group of what, 34, 35 different people that were writing articles about that, which is no easy task, as you well know. And then you decided, well, that's not enough. I'm going to do a couple of chapters myself. I'm going to do one. And I want to concentrate on one of these particular chapters that you talked about. And you wrote a chapter titled Lifelong Learning for Provost, Increasing One's Toolbox. Tell our audience more about that and discuss particularly one of the takeaways that I rather liked, which is particularly the idea of embrace being uncomfortable. Tell us about that.
Sure. So, yeah, we tell our students that they have to be lifelong learners, right? And that has become the catchphrase in higher education, one of our catchphrases, I guess. And it's true, right? Especially in this day and age, you have to keep learning. You can't just stop learning, or you will become irrelevant and replaceable by AI or other technologies. So, you know, at the same time, we cannot be hypocrites, right? We cannot tell our students, keep learning, and we as administrators stop learning ourselves. So that's why, I believe in order to be an effective administrator, you have to keep learning, whatever that means. So in the chapter, I distinguished between two types of learning. I talk about structured learning and I talk about unstructured learning, right? The kind of things that you do on the side. Structured learning is, I guess, a bit more intentional because that may entail taking a class. Or it could also mean, being in a discussion group and you discuss a book and you learn from your colleagues, something like that, that is, has a certain structure to it. And I think both structured learning and unstructured learning are important for us in this role to really keep learning because things are changing so fast. So we cannot sit back and just not do it. Of course, the one criticism that I always get when I pitch that idea to colleagues is, we don't have the time to do that. There's no time. Well, think about professors. Professors have a very busy life as well, right? And yet they teach, right? They would never tell you, I can't teach my class now because I have to write this article. No, they, they have to show up in the classrooms. And so what that means is we have to be intentional and set time, reserve time, especially for learning, right? So if we're intentional and we allot time for learning, we can actually do that. We can accomplish that. And I learned this when I was dean and acting provost at North Park University. I was enrolled in a program. I just wanted to take a class again, just for the fun of it. But unfortunately, or fortunately, it was so much fun that before I knew it, I was enrolled in an additional master's program in higher education administration. And I loved it. It was so much fun. And yes, it was painful at times as well, because that meant me sitting in coffee houses in Chicago, in Chicagoland, at a Starbucks or wherever, and doing my homework assignments, right? Yes, that takes time. It's a time investment, but I really enjoyed that program a lot. And so I wanted to make sure that I would always do something, take a class here, take an online class there, just not to do busy work, but to really grow, because I think we all need to grow. We all need to develop. And then coming back to your last part of the question, why embracing the uncomfortable? Well, again, we don't want to be hypocrites. We tell our students always, you learn best when you're outside of your comfort zone, right? And yet we ourselves don't want to be outside our comfort zone, right? And although I guess you could make the case that as provost, as BPAA, you're always outside of your comfort zone for the most part, right? Because you're dealing with stuff that, well, it's not always comfortable, but needs to get done.
Gregor,
yes.
I'm going to ask you a question here, just as a quick follow-up on this.
Sure.
You're the second person I've done an interview with that all of a sudden one day he decided, well, his PhD wasn't enough and I'm going to go get a law degree. And which I just kind of looked at him like he was out of his mind. And he says, what, and it, basically his staff did too, but he loved it. Would you recommend to all administrators or senior faculty members that maybe that's something they should do, whether it's about a degree or not? Is there something to that you think makes them better at what they do?
Well, I would say at least consider it. Consider it, take a class, find out if you like it. It may not be for you. And I'm not saying this is for everybody, but it really depends on, do you have the time? Can you make the time investment? That's also a question of, do you have other responsibilities outside of work that, would have to come first, right? Are you taking care of a parent? Are you taking care of small kids? They should come first. So don't be selfish. Really think about your priorities. But, if you can fit it in, if it's possible, in my case, my kids had to go to German Saturday school in Arlington Heights in Illinois. And so, my wife and I would drive out there. She would work on her things. I would do classroom work, in the coffee house or in the library. And so it worked out great for us, right? But in other contexts, probably a bad idea. Don't do it, right? It's really context dependent. But again, if you can fit it in, you should go for it. And if you can't, then, think about taking a class, right? Because there's so many online courses offered that are relevant for college administrators. And some of them are free. I've taken many, I believe in freebies. So there are many free courses out there that you can take through Coursera and other platforms. In some cases, they may not be earth-shattering, but I have to say that I've always gotten something out of those courses. So it's always something that you can learn.
Very good.
Greg, thanks so much for that perspective, and also I think invitation to our audience to think about how they can continue learning. What I appreciate most about your perspective, though, is that if we're asking our students to do this, we ought to expect the same from ourselves and that keep on growing. So I really appreciate that. And I think it's especially relevant. Well, it's relevant in all of higher education, but I think especially relevant at smaller colleges, and especially those colleges that the educational program revolves around the liberal arts, where sometimes students are really questioning the value of that. So we, I think, need to practice what we preach, so to speak.
Yes.
We would love to pick your brain a little bit, specifically about the most critical skills that provosts need today to succeed in a very complex environment. So you've served in a number of different leadership roles, but we think that you have some value to add in talking about the specific skills that provosts need today in order to navigate complex systems and be successful.
I guess there's a whole laundry list that I would offer, but if I had to, drill down a couple of attitudes, of characteristics that I would probably highlight. One of them is don't take yourself too seriously. I think that it's important to be able to take a step back and laugh at yourself, right? And realize that, we're all human and we all make mistakes. And, don't take yourself too seriously, because you don't want to be a buffoon, right? You don't want people to say that, no, this person is just has such a big ego or such a big head. Somebody needs to deflate their head, right? And so anyway, I would also say imagination is so important these days, because we have to imagine a world that isn't here yet. We have to imagine jobs that don't exist. We have to imagine how AI might be used going forward, how AI and other digital technologies will change our world completely, right? So we have to imagine that and already think in terms of how can we prepare for that, for the unknown, right? And so that also means that, one person cannot have all the answers for all these questions. That means, how can you leverage the enormous brain power on your campus? How can you get people on board to create somewhat of a mini think tank on campus to think, intentionally about these things and to plan accordingly? How can we tweak our curriculum to really serve our students well? What is it that we can do to make sure that they will be that they're fit for a world that is being created as we speak. So I think those are important things here. And that means also you have to be agile. You can't be married to your ideas, right? You can't be married to a certain framework, and you have to expect that other people will play, hopefully, devil's advocate for you. And that's one of the ways I use AI myself, right? If I think I have a great idea, I tell AI, okay, shoot it down. What am I missing? What are my blind spots here? What am I not considering? Right? I'm not saying that AI has all the answers, but at least it can help me see some of my blind spots, and help me see things from different perspectives. But yeah, being open-minded about these things and not defensive, right? This is the way we've always done it, so we have to continue it. And that's why, for example, we're reimagining the humanities, and the re is really important here because we've tried to revamp the humanities over the last 20 years, and nothing has really worked, right? We've tried film studies, for example. My field was, or still is, German studies, right, in linguistics. And we've tried film studies. That's how we can attract students. Let's just show them films, right? Well, it worked for a little bit, and then our numbers dwindled yet again, right? So we have to, reinvent and look at models that actually work. And so being open-minded and not married to your ideas, and really appreciate this element of surprise when you stumble upon something that you did not expect, and you want to, find out more about it. So be curious, be open-minded. I think those are important qualities these days.
Great. Dean, before I turn to you for the last question, I want to summarize, because I think you made such great points, Gregor. Don't take yourself too seriously. Use your imagination. Leverage and harness the brain power that you have on campus to do good. Take an agile approach. Learn to use and leverage AI as a thought partner. And most importantly, be open-minded so that you're not defensive. I mean, what a great set of mindsets, not only for Chief Academic Officer, but probably for all of us in our leadership roles. So I hope I got that right. And Dean, I'll turn to you for the last question we have today.
Well, Gregor, I'm going to turn you into a futurist as well. And particularly, I'd like you to take a look at the future, maybe over this next decade, about how you see the role of the provost evolving over this upcoming generation, especially as institutions face current and future unknown challenges. What say you? What do you think the future is, and particularly for your particular role?
Well, I have to disappoint you, Dean. I ordered my crystal ball from Amazon. It has not arrived yet. But well, let me try. Well, we have to, first of all, I think your question is an important one, because we have to anticipate that the provost role will be evolving. In fact, there was a book that I did buy when I became provost, and it was already a bit out of date when I read it, because it had come out years prior, and it was called the Provost's Handbook, which was not really a handbook. It was a very thin volume, and it was partly good. There was still good stuff in there, but it was pretty evident already then that the role had changed, and so we have to anticipate more changes, right? Because higher education is changing. So I think that is, in fact, the broader question. How is higher education going to change, and what implication is that overall change going to have on administration, on our students, on our faculty, right? There are wild ways of thinking about this, right? Or maybe they're not that wild after all, right? There are some schools that already have robots that serve as personal tutors, right? There's one school in particular in Germany that uses robots in that way. And of course, they're pretty limited at this point. But, 5 years from now, things will be different. And who knows, maybe, we will use robots in classrooms and outside of class, right? I think there could be many interesting applications for that. But yeah, that is really the question. How are we going to use faculty? What is it going to mean to teach, right? The next generation, not the alpha generation that we're almost dealing with right now, but what about the next, I don't know, I guess that'll be the beta generation or what have you, that we're going to teach. And they will have different challenges, I'm sure, that we will have to address. So again, it depends on a multitude of factors that we cannot foresee at this point. What we can say is, it will be very different in a way. But then again, some things will remain. For example, the chief academic officer will also be involved in personnel issues, right? And whether humans, there will be personnel issues. So those things won't go away. But, for example, when it comes to the future of teaching and learning, I think it will look very different, I could imagine, right? How are we going to use technologies? How are we going to use human interaction? My hope is that we will still prefer human to human interaction over human to robot interaction, because there's you can't really substitute that experience of encountering a human being, right? And so my hope is that our future education, higher education, will still be humane in that sense.
I agree with you, and I hope that is the case, and I believe it will be the case. I don't think AI, and I don't think everything is going to be replaced without the human touch and the human warmth that goes with it. But with that, I also know that our time is just about up. So I want to thank you very much for joining us today, Gregor, and sharing your insights on leadership in the future of small colleges. For those listening, if you'd like to learn more about Small College America, go to the webpage at www.smallcollegeamerica.net, where you can find details on the upcoming episodes, contact us, and suggest topics you'd like us to cover. The episode, Small College America, is made possible by the underwriting support of Perspective Data Science, a firm specializing in AI power, tools, and data solutions, including Financial Compass platform. So on behalf of our guest, Dr. Gregor Thuswaldner, my co-hosts, Kent Barnds, and myself, thank you for listening. And Gregor, thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much, Dean, and thank you so much, Kent. I really enjoyed our conversation.